Welcome to the inaugural season and the opening round of the WSRL Indy Road Series. We're coming to you from virtual Road America. This is the opening round for this season. This league is brought to you by Sim Racing for Simpletons YouTube channel and WC91 Liveries. And we're here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Qualifying just started for these guys out on the track. Pretty cool track temperature, 76 degrees. Seeing a lot of these red tires out here in quality. They have 10 minutes and as many laps as they can turn. And we're going to jump on board now with Colin Arnold. And nobody's set a flying lap time yet. He's completed his out lap. He's now on his flying lap, entering turn 3. A touch of oversteer there. Very tricky to wrangle these cars on cold tires. These Red Bull sidewalls should heat up pretty quickly. This is definitely the quality tire of choice as he's coming down through the Braun sweep down to turn 5. We're going to see how late he can brake here. No hint of a lockup here as he pulls in through the apex, out onto the exit curb, uses all the track to his advantage, opens up the entry to turn 6 here. Very tricky coming over the crest of that hill. It's very easy to oversteer if you have too much wheel input into the car. This corner, just a little breath off the throttle there as he flies through down into turn 8. Another tricky apex that can really catch you out if you get too far off onto the curbing. The big sweeper here, really trying to use as much of the downforce as you can, lift as little as possible, get a good run down here through the kink that should be easily flat out, especially on these red sidewalls. And carry all that speed down this, not straightaway, towards Canada corner. You should see him brake here at about the 3.5 2 board, maybe. Dive in for a pretty early apex. They're going to use all that exit curve to his advantage down through Thunder Valley and 13A. Setting up the final corner here. Going to try to apex pretty early. Get back to that throttle as quickly as possible. Use all that exit curbing and have a long blast down the front straightaway to complete his lap and to set up his next lap. Actually, he's going to pull it into the pits and maybe take a fresh set of tires. We're seeing some times coming now. Brian Hoffman currently in P2, about 5/10 off. Oh, it gets it all wrong in corner. Coming out of turn 3, slides, and is going to bring it back to the track. And not sure if he's going to keep these tires or reset. Looks like he's going to continue on. Looking at Brian Long. Brian's the league administrator for this league, so getting out there, getting his hands dirty, gonna try to turn some fast laps with these guys. And the number 12 comes through turn 5. Looks like a pretty clean run. Normally turn 5, if you look tidy, you're fast. Seeing it coming through turn 7, just a hair off the throttle, trying to keep it in between the white lines, coming down through. Oh, and he's gonna run off here. He has a little bit of a rear lockup, it looks like, as he turns the car in, and causes him to snap around and has to wrangle it, gets the off track, and that will invalidate his lap time. He's going to bring the car back around and take one more attempt at it. Currently your pole sitter, oh, sorry, we just have a new pole sitter. Castro, set to 44.231, is ahead of Arnold by nearly 2/10. Christian Gritzko now coming through the kink on his way down to Canada corner. Has not set a flying lap yet. So they had a good run through Canada, uses all that exit curbing, comes through 13A, just barely clips that outside curbing, gets a good setup for the final corner. This looks pretty good, and he could be on for a good lap here. The long run, you're going to see a lot of moves for position coming down the straightaway and into the turn 1 braking zone. We'll see what he can set for a time here. That's going to be good enough for P10 with a 1:45.333. Oh, we watch Colin Arnold. He's gone for a ride. Yeah, once you get off into the grass here, you kind of become a passenger. And he's going to have to take that thing back to the pits and get it repaired really quickly once it comes to the stop. Maybe he had some sort of hardware failure on his end as well. It's very difficult to say what these cars are going to be like over a long run. This is the first round of the season. We haven't seen these cars on track yet in a race yet. Serrano comes across the line, and was it outlap possibly, or he had his lap invalidated? Bobby Flack comes through turn 1, looks to carry a good amount of speed. On the run down to turn 3, that little bend between after turn 1 is actually considered a turn on this track, so that turn is actually turn 3. And then he's going through what they call now 3A, and then they consider the Moraine Sweep turn 4. And then the big left-hander at the bottom of the hill is turn 5. These guys seem to be doing a really good job at managing the brakes, not really seeing any lockups in the turn 5. People aren't pushing it too far, trying to set a good lap time, get a good baseline in, and then maybe go for a pusher lap. Looking very tidy through turn 7 into turn 8. Manages the exit very well, brings it back across, and is going to go through this long sweeper. You're going to see a bunch of different lines here, especially as drivers are on different tire compounds. The reds, you may see them run it a little bit wider and lean on that arrow a little bit more and try to carry a bit more speed, especially when those red tires are fresh. But as they fall off, you may see them keep it a little tighter and a little slower. So far, looking a little tight. He picks up a little dirt there at the braking point on the entry to Canada Corner, but doesn't seem to affect his braking at all. Comes through 13A, nice and clean, up to the last corner, all the way over to the apex curbing. Looks like he may be just a touch wide as he gets back to the throttle. You're going to see a lot of slipstreaming down this straightaway. You'll see a lot of people weaving and trying to break the draft. And Bobby Flack sets a new pole lap with a 1:44.180.
Randal, that's a great job of following these guys around for that whole first part of qualifying. It's going to be interesting, like you said earlier, that this is a brand new league for us, so we're not sure what these guys are going to lay down, what the cars are going to be like in traffic. But from experience we've had, as you mentioned, do you think that we're going to have a lot of drafting down these long, paralleling straightaways like this? Do you think they're going to be hard into brakes going into like turn 1? What do you think is going to be the best passing zones for these?
Turn 1 and turn 5 are going to be your best passing zones, and I think they have 10 uses of the push to pass button, but you might actually see it become a push to defend button, as especially if somebody's saving towards the end of the race. You can see them use that push to pass button to get that a little bit of extra speed to try to negate the slipstream and keep somebody behind them.
Oh, nice. So we got a new pole sitter right now. That's Agustin Castro. Agustin also runs in our GT3 league for the WSRL, and he actually did take the win on Tuesday night in the GT3 class. Here he is out here in the IndyCar, laying it down out on pole right now. We've got Bobby Flack in the second spot. We're closing in on time. About 15 seconds left in this 10-minute qualifying session. You can do as many laps as you can in this 10 minutes, and let's see if anybody's got a last-minute ditch, but I don't see any purples going on the bottom row. So I think Agustin is going to end up on P1, and then P2 looks like it's going to end up to Bobby. So that looks like it's the end of qualifying. Let's see what they show up here when we get out of there. As it is, on the pole will be Agustin Castro. Bobby Flack will be 0.3 of a second back. In that second spot, Colin Arnold will be sitting third. Richard Serrano qualifying in the fourth spot. Eric Darpoli in fifth. Christian Gritzko will be on the outside of row number 3. Aubrey Kundle is going to be in the 7th spot. On the 8th spot is Brian Hoffman. David Stevenson in the number 9 spot. Mike Weir, one of the other admins for the WSRL, will be in the 10th spot. And he just got the admin, the beat down. He out-qualified Brian Long by 1 spot. Good job there, Mike. Brian Long in the 11th spot. In the 12th spot will be Justin Dive Bomb Barrera. And then in the 13th spot, we're going to have Jake Luther. And the 14th spot will be Neil Alexander. So I think we're going to be starting to get gridded up here. Here we go. Kuk Nin is going to be in the 15th spot. Brett Accord in 16th. 17th is Barry Cochran. Matthew Dweeter in the 18th spot. Gavin Ellsworth in 19. Clay Harris in 20. John Salazzo in 21st. Kevin Dixon in 22nd. And in the 23rd spot, without a time, is Joshua Benjamin. So, Randall, with a 23-car field, we've got so many questions, so many unknowns about this series. But with a 23-car field here, what do you think the race is going to look like to us?
And I've been muted this entire time. So you missed my dazzling analysis of what I expecting to see in this race. So these cars are much more fragile than their real-life counterparts. So hopefully we'll see them get into single file very early, possibly coming out of turn 3. We'll start to see the leaders getting into single file, getting the field in order, kind of spread out a little bit, get some laps under their belt, and then we'll, after 3 or 4 laps, we'll start to see some fighting. And we're seeing some checkups there at the back of the field, as pacing can be kind of dangerous in the sim. Depth perception is a little bit hard to figure out sometimes. As we can see that Cochran here has some front end damage after a collision on the pace lap, and he's just going to pull off and reset. And yeah, so long pace lap here. They have plenty of time to work these tires, work their brakes, get some temperature into things. You can build some tire temperature by building brake temperature. Looks like all the front starters, the top 5 are on the black sidewall primaries, and P6 is the first car on the red sidewall options. So number 69, Eric Darpoli, will have a big advantage early on, so maybe he will try to do some of those early lap heroics, try to get around some cars, make his way to the front, and get the most out of those red sidewalls before they fall off the cliff. They'll have to pit very early compared to the cars in front of him, though, and most of the cars around him, as those black sidewalls last much longer, though they take a couple more laps to come up to temperature. You can see him. Eric there is trying to work the wheel a little bit, trying to get some heat in those tires. I think that little bit of movement won't really do much for him. They should also be working the brakes as well, trying to get some heat into those brakes, get those up to temperature and ready, and also get a little tire temperature like that. And I think Eric is actually starting in P5 and not P6. I got my rows backwards there. So the top 4 are on black sidewalls. P5 is on the red options. We could see a very, very bold move out of Eric going into turn 5, possibly even turn 1 if he gets a good jump on the start. They're making their way down through the kink now to Canada Corner. People are going to be, making sure that they got their fuel numbers ready, making sure they have their pit stop set up, trying to snug up the field, getting a last-minute feel for the wheel and how things feel as you turn it, and trying to focus on when that leader is going to go and to make sure they get the most out of this start. We should see, it won't surprise me if we see 2 or 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide going into turn 1, but hopefully discretion comes out as the better part of valor. These guys keep it clean. We don't see any turn 1 incidents. It'll be a very bad start to a season if you crash out lap 1, turn 1. They do have 2 fast repairs, but that is not a license to go send in one that you can't stick. The pace car is coming through the final corner now. It will quickly dive for the safety of pit lane, and the field will be under control of Agustin Castro as he comes up the front straightaway. We're waiting for him to go, waiting for that green flag to fly. And we're off. Green flag for round 1 of the Wrong Stuff Indy Road Series. As we see a little bit of contact there between P3 and 4 as they storm down to turn 1. Augustine gets a good jump. A couple cars go off. I couldn't see if there was contact there. Oh, we have some debris flying. We have a big jam up in the midfield. There's a lot of damage on some cars here, and a couple cars managed to get it slowed down and avoid the chaos, but will lose a significant amount of time. And a lot of these guys are going to try to limp it back to the pit lane, use one of those faster pairs, and try to get the race back underway. They still have a lot of time to make up some of the time that they've lost. 27 laps. We're going to take a look at the replay here. Looks like, Colin Arnold gets collected by, I couldn't see who that was. Ricardo Serrano gets the braking just a little bit wrong going into turn 1, locks it up, and is just absolutely on a bobsled at that point, sliding into the car outside of him and causing a big mess. Eric Darpoli has moved up to P3 and hot on the heels of Gritzko in P2, trying to get to the front as fast as he can on those red sidewall tires so he can get the most out of them with some clean air, as Agustin has already pulled out a 1.3 second gap as they reach Canada corner. And Kundal goes wide. Looks like he locked up the brakes trying to make a defensive move and just couldn't get the car to turn. Ends up in the tire barriers outside Canada corner and gives Eric Darpoli the P2 spot. And now he's got to try to track down Agustin. He does have the advantage here with those red sidewall tires. He will be much quicker on it for a few laps, but eventually those will fall off a cliff. He's got to time his pit stop perfectly so that he doesn't lose too much time on those old reds. Brian Hoffman here trying to defend from Bobby Flack. Bobby Flack had a very good quali lap and seems to have lost some positions here on the start. Maybe he was involved, got a little bit of incidental contact. His car doesn't look to have much damage as it gets the exit to turn 3 a little bit wrong and is going to fall victim here to Brian Long. Brian Long is up 6 spots since the start, so he managed to avoid the first lap chaos and make good on it. He's also on those red sidewall tires, so you're not surprising that he's able to make his way up, and he's going to continue to do so over the next 5 or 6 laps until those tires start to fall off and those black sidewalls start to come into their own.
Earlier, Randall, you mentioned the red sidewalls. How long do you think they're going to last on a track that's mid 70s right now? How long do you think that they're going to be able to push those tires to get them farther up the board?
It really depends on how hard they push. You could probably get 5 or 6 good laps out of them and they'll start to fall off. I think after about 8 or 9 laps, you'll really see a loss in time as they start to lose grip. And then the black sidewalls should last much longer than that. I suspect that they'll be doing just the one stop to change tires in this race, though they could surprise us and maybe see somebody go 2 stints on the reds and 1 stint on the blacks.
Because they do have to run 2 separate tire compounds through the race, and if they don't run the 2 compounds, they do get penalized. So it should be interesting. It adds a different dynamic to the racing. So as you said, you see Brian Long starting to move his way up the field, up 6 spots already from his starting position, and he is right behind Brian Hoffman right now. So about half second behind as they come into turn 3 to go down the straightaway here. And just making that long run. Bobby Flack is sitting behind him still in that 6th spot. I did notice that he did last lap get a little bit of smoke under his tires under hard braking, but here's a close battle right now between Clay Harris and Q Nin coming into that straightaway as well. Clay Harris in the 10th spot right now. He is up 10 starting positions from his grid position and making his way up all the way up into the 10th spot. Q Nim up 4 spots in the 11th spot right behind him. But just ahead of Clay Harris right now is Brett Accord. Brett seems to be slowing back just a little bit. Harris is all over his back wing right now as they're coming into that section now. Looks like they're coming into, what is this, 6 and 7 here, I think?
Turn 8.
Turn 8 coming into the carousel right now. Brett Accord trying to break away from that draft from Chris Harris. or Clay Harris, sorry, down that straightaway there. Oh, a side-by-side battle right here with Hoffman, and it looks like they may have gone off track. That's Hoffman and Stevenson battling it out coming into turn 14 right now to come up the front straightaway. There's Bobby Flack and Hoffman battling it out coming up the straightaway now. So we're just barely on lap 4 of 27. So, oh, here comes the leader right now, Agustin Castro out in front. And I thought earlier I saw about a full second advantage on him on Darpoli, but Darpoli was able to close back in. So your top 2 cars are separated by about a half second, but we got this 4-way battle right now for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. You've got Flack, Hoffman, Stevenson, and excuse me, this is 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. That's Long, Flack, Hoffman, Stevenson, and yeah, that's all of them right there. Sorry, losing track of my people. So coming into turn number 4 now, Dave Stevenson.
We have a slow car on the left.
Yeah, let's see who that was. Darpoli, he was in the 2nd spot. I wonder what happened to him coming into that turn 5. I wonder if he locked it up. Let's see. Let's go ahead and see what we got, Randall.
Oh, it just got a little bit wide on exit. Bottomed out the car on that exit curbing, and around it went. Now he's on those red sidewalls. He's probably overheated them. They're probably done now. He's going to have to get a few more laps out of them, though, to make his pit strategy work.
That's a tough break because he was all the way right behind Agustin Castro, your leader, and now he's all the way back to the 6th spot. Probably lost a good 12 to 15 seconds to your leader now. So Agustin out in front, Aubrey Kundrell in second, about 2 seconds back. And then you've got this battle right here. Stevenson goes off the track just a little bit, gets it in the dirt, and that gives a chance to Darpoli to take the spot back as they're coming up in here. The 777 car of Stevenson, and he's got Brian Long right behind him as they come up the front straightaway now. So when do you think we're going to start seeing our first set of pit stops, Randall? I mean, you've got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys all on the red labels. When do you think we're going to start seeing those guys come in?
So I'll let you know, since we've not worked together before, I'm famously wrong when it comes to pit strategies. So my prediction is lap 7 or 8, so they're probably going to stretch it to about 10 or 12.
Okay.
You see Brian Long maybe exercising some administrative privilege here and has made his way up with those red sidewalls. But so far, the biggest mover is Josh Benjamin, who's made up 15 spots on those red sidewalls. Now, a fair number of those were from that turn 1 incident, and he managed to get through that cleanly.
No, that's a good jump for Joshua. He's had running in some of the other leagues in WSRL. He's had some rough runs lately, and it's good to see him make a good, solid run like this right now. Being up in the 8th spot, moving up, as you said, 15 spots. Another one of the big movers right now is in the 12th spot, and that is Kevin Dixon. Kevin is up 10 spots as well, so he was also way in the back of the pack, and like you said, with that early catastrophe we had in that first turn and that first lap, he was able to capitalize on it and get all the way up into the 12th spot already. So that's a great move from Kevin right now. But out in front, we do have Agustin Castro way out in front. But right here is Matthew Dweeter in the 14th spot. Dweeter's up 4 spots right now. Let's see if something happened with him in that Stars and Stripes car. Gets off into the grass a little bit, does a little off-road action. I don't think the Dallaras are quite designed to do that. Maybe that should be a new league that we come up with and do a rallycross IndyCar league. What do you think, Randall?
Oh, that would be hard to handle, but it may be fun. The floors on these are actually pretty sturdy, so he probably got away with one there. Got a little greedy there, coming through the apex of the final corner. It's easy to do. You want to get a good run down that straightaway. Ends up a little bit wide and off into the grass.
No harm, no foul. Hopefully he didn't do too much damage to the car. He did lose 1 spot to Alexander, but he's still hanging on there. He is running those black tires, so it's not like he had to burn up the red set of tires already. But right now we're back up in that 6th spot with Dave Stevenson. Dave's starting to separate himself a little bit from Brian Long. Brian's about 1 second back in that 7th spot. Everybody's starting to kind of get spread out right now. There's no real close battles right now. I think the closest battle we have is back in the field, back in the 17th and 18th spot. We've got Jake Luther in the 18th spot, trying to put a move in on Ricardo Serrano, and I believe Serrano was in an early lap incident. So maybe both of these guys were in that early lap incident, and we're just trying to make their way back up the field. But they're the ones that have the closest battle right now. But it looks like we might have a battle developing up in the front, up in about the 4th spot. Darpoli starting to make a run back up on Brian Hoffman. And that it's less than a second separating them right now. And you've got Darpoli, who's the one that made that mistake earlier on those red set of tires. Here they come up onto lap number 7. So let's see how wrong you really are, Randal, and let's see if anybody starts making that pit. There is one person coming in for a pit, so there you go. You do win the bet today because one person came in. Did you pay him off to get in the pits or what?
Yeah, and he is on the red sidewalls too. The car that just went in the pits, that is Brett Accord. And Eric, it looks like he took a lap or half a lap to let the tires cool off and gather his thoughts and try not to let one mistake turn into more mistakes. He's working his way back up the field. But you can see those tires are starting to fall off. He had closed up to Hoffman quite a bit, and now he's starting to fall back.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these guys can do. I mean, this is the inaugural race of the inaugural season for the WSRL Indy Racing League. It's going to be an exciting season. They do have some very exciting races coming up this season with a full 8-race season. It's going to be a great league. It's very exciting to see what these guys can do. As we got a battle right now where Matthew Dweeter looking to go on the inside to get by Alexander as they're coming down into that section, and he does it. He's able to pull it off with a little bit of late braking action. Oh, kicks up a little dirt in his face to just say, "Here, I got you." So here they come into Thunder Valley, coming into 13 and 14 right now to come up the front straightaway. Matthew Dweeter hanging on to that 13th spot. Alexander about a half second back, and Alexander does have push to pass that he can use, but he decides not to use it yet. He's still early in the race. They're only on lap 7 of 27. I don't think you want to use all those up quite yet.
Really importantly, there you see that Dweeter's on the black sidewalls as we see Eric Darpoli coming to the pits. Dweeter was on the black sidewalls, and he was able to take that spot away. The red sidewalls are falling off. The black sidewalls are really coming into their own now. We're seeing a lot of cars with those red tires coming into the pits, and also Brian Hoffman on black sidewalls is in the pit lane.
That's a little surprising. You would think that the blacks would last a little. Oh, and you have Dweeter spinning out coming into turn 5. That's going to just negate all that hard racing that he just did and knock him back at just one spot. But he loses so much valuable time right now. But Randal, how long do you think these black sidewalls will last? I mean, we're talking about how long the red ones will last, but how long do you think it'll last before the black ones start falling off?
I think you'll get at least 15, possibly as many as 18 laps out of these black sidewalls. They're going to be pretty slow towards the end of that stint, but you can really stretch them out. If you try to make this one stop, you really need to get a lot of laps in on these black sidewalls, but you'll also need to stretch those red sidewalls.
Yeah, as we saw Dweeter just having all sorts of problems, but the guy that is not having any problems right now, car number 49, Agustin Castro. He is out in front by almost 2.5 seconds right now on his teammate, Aubrey Kundrell. Bobby Flack was able to work his way back up into 3rd spot. He's about 5 seconds back in the 88 car. And then behind Bobby Flack, we've got Dave Stevenson. So you got the top 4 cars are all on the black sidewall tires right now. Brian Long, who did start the race on the reds, is running in 5th spot, and he's trying to close in on Stevenson a little bit. But they're coming up on lap number 9 to finish lap number 9 to come on 10. And Brian does go by the pits one more time. So he's really trying to stretch these red tires out quite a while. So when you start stretching out these red ones, do they kind of equalize down to being like the black sidewalls, or do they become worse than the black sidewalls? What's your thought on that?
They are worse than the black sidewalls, and it's almost like going off a cliff. Suddenly, there's just no grip. You have to back up your brake points, open up your entries, be more patient on the throttle, especially in some of these corners like turn 5 where it's really easy to get those rears spinning. So it's very tricky once these red sidewalls start to fall off. And every time we've been on watching Brian Long, he looks to be taking it very easy on them. So not pushing as hard as some of the other drivers on the red sidewalls, but getting a little bit more life out of them.
Yeah, he must be just trying to milk the tires out and not burn them down, like you said. He's just trying to just stay within striking distance of Dave Stevenson. Maybe he can jump him in the pits. That's what he's kind of hoping for. But it is pretty interesting to see that your top 4 runners right now are all on the black sidewalls, and they all do have to go to those red tires. So they're probably going to want to try to. You think they're going to try to push it all the way out? If you're, let's say you're Bobby Flack, you're in the 3rd spot right now. You're 5 seconds behind 2nd. You know you still have to switch to the reds. Would you want to come in for reds now, or would you want to push your blacks as far as you can and just do a Lewis Hamilton hammer time for the last 4 laps?
I want to probably get at least 13 or 14 laps out of my black sidewalls. If I'm coming in that early, I'm probably resigning myself to 2 pit stops. So I'd have to be pretty quick compared to the cars around me in order to really hope to pull it off. Also, it's going to be interesting to see what the cars in front of him do. He may just copy their strategy, or possibly just do the exact opposite of whatever they do.
Well, you say you're usually wrong on when the guys come in for pits, so you could be completely wrong on strategy. So we'll see how that plays out, right?
That's right. I'm famously wrong when it comes to pit strategy in some of these races, and what I think I would do is often the losing strategy.
So I'll just quit asking you for strategy, and then we'll just let them play it out, I guess, is the way we're going to go. But as you see, we got the 4th place car still, Dave Stevenson in the 777 Maradness M Squad, coming around turn 5 right now, up that tricky little hill into turn 6. It is a pretty tricky spot, and I think when these guys get pretty wore down on those red tires, that could play a big spot right there. But everybody's playing pretty fair right now with all 20 cars still on the track. We got a good group of cars going, so we still has Agustin Castro out in front, and then in the 2nd spot, I think we could go through a rundown of everybody and just kind of see where everybody's at. We've got Agustin Castro out in front in the 49 car. About 2 seconds behind him, we have Aubrey Kundrell. Both of these guys are in the GT3 league, and both of them run for the wrong stuff. It's good to see those guys running up front. In the 3rd spot, another 3 seconds back, Team Empire's Bobby Flack running in that 3rd spot. And in the 4th spot, we were just riding along with Dave Stevenson in the 4th spot, as it looks like Bobby Flack coming in for his pit stop. The 3rd place car, them black tires coming in for a stop. It's a little early, don't you think, Randal?
It could be early, but they're also probably doing a 2-stop strategy, so they could do 2 stints on the blacks or 2 stints on the reds. They are limited on fuel. They may have taken a little bit lighter fuel load to start the race and going to take a longer stop and try to make up some early positions. But we're seeing some of these black sidewalls come in pretty early, but we're also seeing the likes of Joshua Benjamin and Brian Long come in on those red sidewalls. So some interesting mixes of strategies here.
Yeah, let's see what tires that Bobby's going to end up going to. It looks like they're up on the Jackson. He stays with the blacks, so it sounds like he's going to go for that 2nd stop and really push it. Oh, and we have a car off the track. Is that Bobby Flack off the track?
Bobby Flack.
Wow,
looks like he was bit by the cold tire bug. He came out, got onto the throttle, and probably spun up the rear tires. They're very cold. They will not have grip for at least a lap, possibly as many as 2 laps. That's the bad thing about going to these black sidewalls, is you really have to baby them around the track on those out laps.
And I think he just learned the hard way too. So that's a tough lesson to learn right off the bat when you were running in the 3rd spot. But you've got Agustin and Aubrey still out in front, and then Q Nin now up into the 3rd spot after some pit stops. Oh, what do we got here? Darpoli doing it again. This is the 2nd time he's done that in that same section, Randal.
Yeah, it looks like he just got it a little bit wrong. His tires are definitely getting old now. He's going to have a lot of problems putting the throttle down. Looks like he manages to keep the front end pretty clean. It looked like he was in the wall, but didn't pick up too much damage.
Yeah, hopefully that's not too much damage, but as you said earlier, you can definitely burn those tires off. And the leader in the pits, both 1st and 2nd spot in the pits right now, Agustin and Aubrey Kundrell. Agustin is known for being a fuel saver, and I'm curious if he's really saving fuel to get a shorter pit stop. To be curious to see how this works out for him. And then our third place car, a Q-Nin, also in. Hoffman in the 4th spot. Looks like he's still going to be coming up to the straight. See how quick a stop these guys came out. Back out and quick. Did you notice if they were up on the jacks? I did not see that, Randall. I was not paying attention to them on the jacks.
They most certainly were taking tires. I was watching the timing chart to see who was coming around next, so I did not watch either. My apologies. But they almost certainly took tires. It would be not sensible to not take tires, so certainly they did. It looks like Augustine and Aubrey both took those black sidewalls, so they're going to try to stretch it out and save those red sidewalls for the last stint of the race.
They were able to still resume out in front, the first and second, Agustin Castro and Aubrey Kundal. And in the 3rd spot right now, you've got the 13 car of Brian Hoffman. Brian's still rocking those red sidewall tires. And if I look correctly, he has not pit yet, if I'm correct.
He has pit. I believe he started the race on black sidewall, so he's now on the options. This will be his time to strike, and he'll probably have to go back to the blacks to finish the race.
All right, so he is just about 2.5 seconds behind your 2nd place car of Aubrey Kundal. And then this is the 12th spot right now with Clay Harris trying to put a move in on Kevin Dixon and all over his back wing. Is it time to use the push to pass yet, Randall, or how are you going to do this?
If you're on these red sidewalls, it's most certainly the time to use push to pass, especially if you're on fresher red sidewalls. You want to get around and get some clean air and try to run away. Makes up some of that time you've lost earlier in the race.
So Clay Harris able to make it on up into the 11th spot. Gets by Kevin Dixon, nice and clean coming into turn 5 there. And actually starting to pull away now with just over almost a second separating those 11th and 12th place cars. Everybody else kind of stringing out right now, but it looks like Brian Long up in the 5th spot might be closing back in on Dave Stevenson. Let's see where these guys are coming into turn 1 right now. You still have both these guys on black sidewall tires. We're on lap 13 of 27, so we are closing in on that halfway point right now. We've seen just about everybody come in for their stop. We got the last few guys coming in right now. But this is your closest battle right now for the 4th and 5th spot. Dave Stevenson still hanging on to that 4th spot as they're coming down the back straight into turn 5, where we've seen a couple cars have a little one-off here, but they're able to get through there nice and cleanly coming up the hill into turn 6. Dave Stevenson able to hold that line right now, but here comes Brian Long as you see the in-car right now coming off the back wing. There's nobody back there. There he is. So here we come down into turn 8 and coming into the carousel. Brian Long hanging on right behind Dave. Both these guys have raced in other leagues as well, and so they're very familiar with each other. It should be a good battle with these guys. I've raced with both of them, and they are both really quick. So how would you, Randall, with just being half second back, what would you do at this point? Would you push the effort to try to get by? As you see Steve's get a little hairy under braking right there. But would you just go dive bomb and try to make it all the way to the front now? Or are you conserving tires? What would your strategy be? I know I said I'd quit asking those questions, but whatever you say is going to be wrong anyway, so what you got?
So, in this position, if I'm Brian Long, after watching his first stint, he's very gentle on the tires. He's probably just going to try to save fuel. He's going to make it on one more stop here, so he's going to try to make that last stop as short as possible. You see them overtaking a car coming out of pit lane. So save some fuel. He's got to realize that he has dirty air, so he's going to be dealing with some understeer, so you need to take a little bit of extra effort to take care of those tires. But if Dave Stevenson makes a mistake, he's going to be right there to pounce. So keep the pressure on, and maybe you can force Stevenson into a mistake. Otherwise, you're in a good position to save some fuel here if you don't think you're too much faster than Dave.
Yeah, it's good. I think you are correct on this. This is the move I would do. But here he comes down on the inside of 5. Made a look on there to see if he can make Stevenson make a mistake. But Stevenson is pretty cagey, and he was able to hang on to that spot. So that is your closest battle still for the 4th and 5th spot. Dave Stevenson still able to hang on to that 4th spot. On down the board, it looks like everybody is pretty settled out right now, and I think we could could probably go through a whole list of everybody right now just to give a little shout out to everybody that's in the race. So right now we're in the 4th spot. We've got Dave Steveson. In the 5th spot, we've got that black car of car 12 of Brian Long. And then back behind Brian, about 11 seconds back, we have Joshua Benjamin. We did talk about Joshua earlier in the 78 car, running in that 6th spot. As you see, Long still trying to reel in on Steveson. About a half second separating these two guys as they're battling coming into turn 14 right now. This could be interesting to see if he tries to pull a draft job up the front straightaway here. Within about a quarter of a second now, he's starting to reel him in. He could use one of his push to passes now to see if he can get by. Here's going to be a great draft opportunity, like we talked, into hard break into turn 1 to see if he's able to lay it down. Here they come into that braking section now. Brian dives on the inside and he can't quite get the job done. Steveson. Oh, we got a car off the track. Let's see. This looks like Darpoli, and he is having one heck of a night. He's got a night he just wants to forget. Have you ever had one of those nights, Randal, where you just want to disconnect?
I've had plenty of those nights, and I've disconnected plenty of times. Looks like he's trying to stay in it, though. Maybe going to get that repair and then get the car back out. I noticed that he used his 9th push to pass shortly before that, so he was definitely on it and trying to make up some time. Just got a little too wide there at the exit of the carousel and went for a ride.
Yeah, it's a tough break for Darpoli. He was out in front, or up towards the front, and putting some pressure down, and then just things go from good, bad to worse. So we've all had those kind of nights. But right now, Brian Long is having a pretty good night. He's sitting right behind Dave Steveson, just waiting for a chance to get by him. We are on lap 15 of 27. So this is still just over the halfway point. Being a 3-mile track, over 3-mile track, it does take these guys still a minute 45, 46 to get around. So it's still a good long race as they're coming down into Canada Corner right now into 12. Steveson's still able to hang on. And Q Nin is actually closing in on these guys in the 7th, or on the Joshua Benjamin. I apologize. I was looking at the wrong listing here. As they're coming up the front straightaway now, Brian gets off into the grass a little bit, falls back just a little bit. I think that might actually hamper him coming up this front straightaway. The last time down the straightaway, he made tried a nice move into turn 1, just didn't have enough to get through, and he just was not able to get enough draft. So Randal, with these cars, I know with like the GT3 cars or any other cars, you get within about a second, you could really feel the difference in the draft. How close do you have to be with these to really feel the draft, or do you end up with more dirty air as you get closer and the car gets to be more hairy?
These cars definitely suffer more from dirty air. You get a pretty decent slipstream with these cars, but the dirty air plays a big role. We've seen Brian Long stick his nose out a couple times. I think it's a double move to show his nose to Dave to try to get him to make a mistake, but also to try to get some clean air to make that turn entry a little bit better and try to save some of those tires. You see Quoc Ninh all over the back of Josh Benjamin here. Josh on those red sidewalls. They're probably falling off now. Those black sidewalls are definitely coming back in for everybody that's made their pit stops. And Quoc is got his elbows out, trying to push, trying to get around, and just not able to find it quite yet. I think if he just keeps the pressure on, and there's his chance actually, he's going to get around on the outside going into the carousel.
Great move from Nin to get by Benjamin. Benjamin kind of sucked it off on that off track just a tiny little bit, and that was all the spot that Nin needed to get by him. But this is right behind Benjamin now is the 19 car. That's a lap car. Sorry about that. That's a lap car back there. Oh no, man, that's a rough crash. What happened? Oh man, look, was that the lap car that got into the back of Benjamin? I mentioned it earlier. Benjamin has had some rough breaks so far, and it just seems to surface itself back up. Jake Luther getting into the back of him. Here's they come into, and he just clipped that one wheel. I don't know if Benjamin braked a little earlier or if Luther was thinking he was going to try to outbrake him, but he ended up getting in the back of Benjamin and ended up costing him a good run. So here we are back up front with Agustin Castro in the 49 car. Out in front, and he's got a nice, comfortable lead. About a 4-second advantage right now on your second place car of Aubrey Kundrell. Audrey just getting out. You could just barely see him on some of these straightaways coming up. So it's just close enough that you could barely get a glimpse of the leader and know that he's still there. But you just get a sight of how far he's really back. In the third spot, about 7 seconds behind Aubrey, is Brian Hoffman in the car 13. Running around, Brian out of Florida right now in the third spot. And then and he's still running the red sidewall. So I remember we were talking about that earlier. So looks like these guys are going to be doing 2 stoppers because your top 2 are still on black walls and they still have to change into those reds. So Hoffman's still going to have to change pit stop one more time. In the 4th spot, we have the 12 car as we followed a good length of this race, Brian Long. And he still has that battle with Dave Stevenson right behind him. So it looked like Brian, if I remember correctly, Brian was behind Stevenson, so he was able to get by him. We may have missed that pass. So your 3rd place car in the pits right now, as the 4th and 5th place cars are coming up the straightaway, they're going to go by Hoffman to take over the spot. So now Brian Long up into the 3rd spot, Dave Stevenson up into 4th as Hoffman in the pits. And Long looks like he's already used up 8 of his push to passes. So I wonder if he used up most of those trying to get by Dave. Dave still has 8 of them left himself. So he's got a lot of push to passes to go with only 9 laps left in the race. They are still battling out. This has been the longest battle on the track right now. They have not been able to separate themselves from each other. Brian Long up into the 3rd spot and Dave Stevenson in 4th. They get past that lap car nice and cleanly coming down the Moraine Straight and coming up into turn 6. Brian Long still able to hang on to that 3rd spot, and Stevenson is going to resume their battle. And if we want to drop back into the 5th spot, you got Q Nin working his way all the way up into the 5th spot. Q is all of 10 spots all the way up from his starting spot. We had a great run from Nin in that number 86 car. And in the 6th spot is Brian Hoffman after his pit stop. He was able to resume, dropping from 3rd back to 6th. And now he's running the red sidewall tires. So let's see what he can do. Maybe he can get some good hot runs in. He still has 9 laps to go. So it's going to be a tough push to get those tires all the way to the end. In the 7th spot, you got the 88 car of Bobby Flack. Bobby was an early runner up front, get it off track just a bit there, but able to collect it nice and cleanly. He's had a little run-ins here and there, but he's steady in the 7th spot. Back in the 8th spot, we got the 313 car of Clay Harris. Looks like a little bit of smoke back there. He may have locked it up coming into turn 5, but he was able to get it going and keep on straight. Looks like we got a little incident with Brian Long here. Brian running off the track and doing a little 4x action with it. We were talking about doing an off-road season with these guys, but Randal, you kind of voted against that. These floors are a little fragile on these, so I don't think that would have been a good idea. In the 8th spot still, we got Harris, and then behind him is in the 9th spot, Christian Gritzko in the 499 race. Now, and then in the 10th spot, Joshua Benjamin was able to resume in the 10th spot in car 78. Joshua had that rough run-in with Jake Luther coming into turn 5 earlier, and it's dropped him back into that 10th spot. Behind Benjamin is the 27 car, and that is Neil Alexander out of California in that nice-looking livery on that car. He's still a little ways back of Benjamin. See if he can make a run. Looks like Harris in the pits right now, so maybe Alexander could get a little bit closer to him and make a move. Back in the 12th spot, we've got Kevin Dixon in the number 9 car. Kevin's coming under pressure right now from the 64 car of Ricardo Serrano. These two guys have been running together for a good portion of the track or a good portion of the race. And Serrano trying to make a move coming in, and it goes way late on the braking coming into turn 12, able to hang on to it, coming around Thunder Valley right now. I'm not sure how he made that move. That was, I thought he was still just way behind, but he was able to make that pass here. It's going to replay right now. Dive bombs on the inside. Man, I wonder how surprised Kevin was to see that coming through that rearview mirror. Randal, I mean, would you panic in that move, or would you just hope that he's going to go off the track?
Well, Kevin did an amazing job there of being aware of the situation and leaving space. Once you get to that point of the turn, you're pretty much focusing on the apex and not your mirror. So really good heads up move by Kevin there. Very aggressive move from Ricardo, and they're both very lucky that it didn't end in heartbreak.
No, absolutely. That was a good job on Kevin to get through there. We've got a close battle still for that 10th and 11th spot with Harris and Alexander. But I think if we drop back the field, let's see what the rest of the field is doing here. We got in the 14th spot, we've got Gavin Ellsworth. We haven't really talked much about Gavin all day. Nice little rocking the old school Atari paint job on that. Running in the 14th spot. And then behind him in the 15th spot, car 103 of Matthew Dweeter. We talked about him earlier getting a little off track, but Matthew's kind of hanging back here in the 15th spot. May have been a little rough race for him trying to learn these cars. Not quite sure, but he is a front runner in our GT3 league. And then right behind him is Justin Barrera. I sure hope that cat's not driving his car right now, but if it is, it might be why he's in the 16th spot in the 419 car. And then in the 17th spot is in pits right now. That is Barry Cochran. Barry looks like he's had an issue coming into turn 1. And let's see what happens here. Not sure what happened here. Oh, it just gets on the outside. That's a tough break, Randall. You get sucked into that tire and just went straight into the wall.
Yeah, all the weight is on the outside wheels at that point in the corner, and you get them out there in the grass, and the car turns into Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, like I like to say. There's a wheel, and there's pedals, and you can push them, and you can turn the wheel all you want if it makes you feel better, but you're really just along for the ride at that point.
That's a tough break for Barry. But right now we've got 16 cars on the track still, all running around. This is one of our closest battles right now for 15th and 16th. Dweeter gets off the track just a little bit. Justin Barrera looks for a place to get by. Can't quite do it coming into turn 2 or 3. And then down the straightaway, they're going to come down the hill and into turn 4 or 5. You've got Barrera trying to get a nice draft on him coming into that turn 5. Get a push to pass maybe, and coming on the inside. Hard braking coming in there by the dive bomb Justin Barrera, and he's able to hang on to that spot and get by. And he is on the black sidewall tires, and he's able to make that pass on Matthew with the red sidewall. So Dweeter must be really burning his tires up to drop back this far. Dweeter back in that 16th spot right now. But in the other close battle we have right now is for 10th and 11th. You've got Harris and Alexander still battling it out. About 3/4 of a second battling these guys out. They've been battling for probably a good 5 to 6 laps. And we've got 5 laps to go. Agustin Castro just crossing the line, turning a 146.2. It looks like Agustin has one of the fastest laps in the race, but that fast lap's going to go to your 6th place car. And that is Brian Hoffman with a 145.4. So that is a quick lap for these guys coming around. But your close battle still is for Harris and Alexander coming around right now. So with 5 laps to go, and okay, you got Agustin and Aubrey still on the black sidewall tires. When do you think these guys are going to come in?
They're almost certainly going to pit this lap. 4 to 5 laps is the ideal window for those red sidewalls to really get a good lap times out of them. So waiting much longer won't make much sense. You want to maximize your tire, your grip available. They'll try to get 4 or 5 good laps out of those red sidewalls. Will not be surprised at all to see them dive into the pits at the end of this lap.
So with a 33-second advantage on the 3rd place car, do you think that's enough to get in and out of the pits and resume in the lead, or is Nin going to get by them? Because we know Nin's going to have to stop as well. But would you think that's enough time, or how long is that pit entry and tire change?
The only hope they have is if the only hope Nin has to overtake and lead a lap is if he stays out. They all pit on lap 11 though, so Quack's tires are going to be really feeling bad right now. I would be very surprised if he stayed out any longer than Augustin or Aubrey. And as we see, Augustin jumps to the pit now, followed by his teammate Aubrey. So right on schedule. They're going to be setting some flying laps here at the end. I suspect we'll see Augustine get the fastest lap of the race here over the next couple.
You were actually correct this one time, Randall. I will mark that down on the calendar, and we will post it on the production wall right now. You actually were correct on an assumption. So your top two cars, Agustin Castro and Aubrey Cundle, in for a final pit stop. They are going to have to change to those red, super sticky tires. Right now, Agustin has one of the fastest laps with a 1:45.5, so it's curious to see what they do. Here comes Cochran in as well, your third place car. Looks like everybody making their final pit stop. And Agustin getting back out on the track.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, and it's black tires. He never switched to the reds. He never switched over to the red tires, and he came out on cold tires and it put it straight in the wall. What a tough break for Agustin Castro. Like you mentioned earlier, there were cold tires, but he never switched. So I wonder if he realized that and then just mentally said rage quit. Yeah, I don't know what to think, Randall.
I'm possibly have an error on my timing screen, or maybe there's a graphical glitch, but on my timing screen it says he took the red sidewalls. So I think he was actually on the reds. I think he just got bit by cold tires. Maybe he fell asleep a little bit, had too much of an advantage for the entire race. The first mistake we've seen out of him all night, and it's a doozy. Aubrey Cundle is going to inherit the lead and inherit quite a lead over P2 once all this pit cycling takes place. Unless Brian Hoffman can really stretch out the set of tires. But I suspect we're going to see him in the pits this time by.
Yeah, that may have been a glitch then too, because I saw black sidewalls on Agustin's car, but looking up on timing and scoring, I do see the red sidewall. So that must have been a glitch. But that is a tough break for Agustin. He was out in front and just had command of the race, and we only have 4 laps to go. He just handed it on a silver platter to Aubrey Cundle. Aubrey out in front now with a 6-second advantage, and as you said, Brian Hoffman in the second spot should still have to come in for a stop. So we're coming up the hill one more time, and we still have 3 laps to go. Aubrey Cundle with 3 laps to go with an 8-second advantage right now on Hoffman. As you see our pit strategies right now, Hoffman came in, ran 7 laps on the last set of tires, and now he's trying to stretch these out for that full length as well. Dave Stevenson in the third spot, about 12 seconds back with those fresher tires. It's going to be curious to see if Dave is able to reel in Hoffman or not. It may be running out of time with only 3 laps to go, but it'll be interesting to see. And he was able to stretch away from Brian Long in the 4th spot. He now has a 5-second advantage on Brian. They were running nose to tail for such a long time. And now Brian dropping back about 5 seconds. In the 5th spot, you've got cute Nin coming out of the pits. Great run from Nin right now, up 10 spots and running in the 5th spot. And right behind him is the 78 car of Joshua Benjamin. Joshua is up 17 places. We talked about it earlier where he got run in from Jake Luther at the bottom of turn 12 coming into Canada corner. He was able to limp in around, get in his fast repair, and get new tires on it, and get back out and hang on to the 6th spot. What a great run from Joshua Benjamin right now. Behind Joshua is Bobby Flack. Bobby about 5 seconds back in that 7th spot. Bobby's had a rough go since early on. He had a great qualifying time and it ended up just getting shuffled back and having a little run-in with somebody and dropped him back into that mid-pack right now. And he's lost 5 starting positions because he was on the front row at the beginning. Behind him is Christian Gritzko. Christian in the 91 car, running in the 8th spot, quite a ways back from Bobby. So Bobby's in pretty good position right now to hang on to that 7th spot. And then behind him is Harris, Clay Harris in the number 313 car. We've seen quite a bit of Clay running and battling with some people, but he's running by himself right now, about 20 seconds behind Gritzko. Behind him is your leader early on, Agustin Castro, after coming in the pits, after having to basically rebuild his entire car because he came out on cold tires. What a tough break for Agustin. He had such a commanding lead of the race and just lost it coming out of the pits going into turns 1 and 2. I'm still Randall, I'm still showing black tires on the car, but the marker on the timing and scoring is saying red tires. Are you seeing the same thing as I am?
I've seen the same thing, and I'm thinking it's just a graphical glitch from iRacing. So I'm going to trust the timing and say that he's on the red sidewalls, considering that he had not been on them all race.
And if just by chance, just to go over the rules and whatnot, what happens if you don't change your tires on the car? As we see Dweeter go off the track. Tough break for Matthew Dweeter. He's had just a tough race all in all. Add insult to injury, hits the gas, hits the rear tires against the wheels, and he's just, you know what, I've got 2 laps to go. I'm just going to tow it in. Here he comes at the top of the hill, and I think I mentioned it earlier, coming into turn 6 is going to be a little hairy, and Dweeter just outbreaks it up there, locks him up, gets in the dirt, taps the wall one more time, and is like, you know what, I've got a lap and a half to go. Let's just tow it in and call it a day. So tough break for Dweeter. But out in front of where we at? We got Nin coming up in that 5th spot. Fastest lap right now is by Nin, 144.7. That is a great lap for Nin with them fresh red wall tires. He's going to take that fastest lap right now as we're coming up on the white flag lap here shortly. Aubrey Kundrell out in front and stretching away. Hoffman is able to hang on right now, but he's still 11 seconds back. So I wonder if he's really trying to milk those tires to go. But as you look at the timing and scoring, you can see that Hoffman hasn't even used any of his push to passes yet. He still has a full 10 push to passes left. But he's I think probably limping those tires around, and it's just going to be a good save for sitting in the 2nd spot overall. But Kundrell earlier just handed the lead when Agustin just went off the track after his pit stop. What do you think when you come out of the pits like that, Randall? You see somebody just go off the track like that. I mean, what's the first thing in your head?
I've had a few races handed me like that, and the first thing I think immediately is don't do the same thing. So don't follow that driver off and learn from their mistake. And it looks like Aubrey did that, managed to get those tires up to temperature, and is now going to have smooth sailing, as I think Brian Hoffman is maybe trying to save some fuel, and that might be why we're not seeing him use that push to pass. I know in real life, using that push to pass also makes you burn a little bit more fuel. I assume it does so in the sim as well. So I think that is why he's taking it easy, as we see Aubrey taking the white flag on a victory lap here with a 12-second lead.
Wow, it's going to be a great victory lap for Aubrey Kundrell. Maybe we can jump in car with him and just watch him take this full last lap around as he's coming down the Moraine Straight through pseudo turn 4. Just kind of a little kink coming down the hill into turn 5. Aubrey Kundrell was running 2nd for a good portion of the race, as we mentioned earlier. Good, smooth braking in here. No competition. There's nobody ahead of him. It's just going to be a nice, casual Thursday night drive for Aubrey. Gets in there good, nice and tidy through 6, coming into 7 right now. As everybody's pretty spread out right now, so we're going to give Aubrey his little victory lap in here on his in-car. No real close battles on the track right now. But Kundrell coming into the infamous carousel turn is such a fun turn to take. With some cars, you just got to lift just a little bit, and about the halfway point, you can get back into it. But just drag race down into the kink into turn 11. And then Aubrey coming down the Kettle Bottoms into Canada Corner, probably one of the most famous corners in American road racing. Nice and easy down in here, coming into Canada Corner, turn 12. Aubrey Kundrell, no harm, no foul right now. Nice and easy coming around turn 13. And he's coming into turn 14, and he's going to see the checkered flag coming up the front straightaway right now. You can't quite see this flag man yet because of the hill, but he's coming up, push to pass, getting pressed on just so he can get a little extra, trying to see what he can get at fastest lap, and he comes by for the victory. Aubrey Kundrell will take the inaugural race of the WSRL Indy Racing League. That was a great run for Aubrey. Here comes your 2nd place car of Brian Hoffman, able to limp that car around. He was really saving some fuel and tires at the end. And in the 3rd spot, Dave Stevenson. He had a great battle with Brian Long and was able to pull away and get up into the 3rd spot and close within 7 seconds of Hoffman. Brian Long is going to end up taking the 4th spot. You see him weaving back there since he can't flash his lights in these cars. And then Q Nin is going to end up in the 5th spot. And I think Nin did not end up with the fastest lap. We have a fastest lap farther behind him. In the 6th spot coming up the hill right now should be Joshua Benjamin, your 6th place car. Bobby Flack is going to be coming up the hill shortly in the 7th spot, finishing in 7th. Coming probably around turn 14 right now is Christian Gritzko in the 91, coming up the hill right now. So Christian will finish in the 8th spot, only 2 spots down from his starting position. And then not too far, about a couple turns behind him is Mr. Harris. Clay Harris going to finish in the 9th spot. I think he is the last car out on the track right now to finish. We'll give him a little follow around here at the end. So this has been a great race so far. You've got Clay coming around for his final lap right now. So good 27 lap race for these guys. Good strategies were played on. So we're going to get these guys around. And I think we're going to bring in our race winner here. And let's see if we can find him in the paddock. After that, Randal, why don't you go through the finishing order for us real quick before we bring in our leader?
No problem. It looks like we got qualifying on screen now, but what we're interested in is the race results. And your overall winner is going to be Aubrey Kundle in the number 653 Wrong Stuff with a margin of victory of just under 14 seconds over Brian Hotham, who finishes P2. Dave Steeson finishes P3. And really important, our podium started 7th, 8th, and 9th. So way to move up the field for these guys. Brian Long finishes 4th. Kwok Nin up 10 places to finish 5th. Joshua Benjamin, 17 places gained, finishes P6. Bobby Flack, P7. Christian Gritzko, P8. Clay Harris, P9. Agustin Castro, who dominated the first 2/3 of this race, had just a little bit of a mistake on cold tires, brings it home in a still pretty respectable P10. Neil Alexander, P11. Ricardo Serrano, P12. Justin Divebomb Barrera finishes P13 in the Metamorphosis car. Kevin Dixon, P14. Gavin Ellsworth in P15. Barry Cochran in P16. Matthew Dweeter, who had some trouble out there, finishes in P17. Eric Darpoli, who had a very good start and a very good opening stint and then found himself in trouble, finishes in P18. P19 is going to go to Jake Luther. P20 going to go to Brett Accord. John Salazzo finishes in P21. Mike Weir finishing P22, and finishing in 23rd is going to be Colin Arnold in the 499 Racing Team.
It turned out to be a great race, and somebody that has had a really great race. Your winner of the inaugural WSRL Indy Racing League Race 1, Aubrey Kundle. Congratulations on your win. How did your race go for you, Aubrey?
It went pretty good. I was just trying to stay out of trouble. I knew Augustine had more pace than I did, so I figured I'd just try to save some fuel and try to make a run on that last stint, see what would happen on the softs. He kind of had the same plan, and then he messed up on the cold tires. So
what's your thought? What's going through your mind when you come out of pit lane and then all of a sudden you see the guy that you've been 6-7 seconds behind, coming into the pits, go completely off the track? What's the first thing in your mind?
Thank you.
That was crazy. So when the cars come out of pit lane, are the tires that cold that they just get real crazy, or what happens to a car like that?
Yeah, no, the tires are super cold. It's not as bad on the softs. On the hard tire, it's really bad. So you have to be really careful. And it looks like it just caught him out a little bit on the cold tires. He was just probably trying to push it on that outlap.
Yeah, that's a tough break for him, but we're here to talk about you. You had a very masterful drive, and it looked like you were really comfortable on Road America this race. So we've got an 8-race season. Is there any races coming up that look spotlight that you got circled on your calendar that say this is my race? What races coming up do you have?
No, not really. It's just I don't have the pace of some of those front runners, so my whole goal is just to stay out of trouble, stay consistent, and it worked out tonight.
Well, you're not a lot of pace right now was able to give you the win. So, I mean, that's pretty good pace in my book, Aubrey. Congratulations on your win. While we have you in the booth here, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank while we're here?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting this, and then thank the Wrong Stuff Racing, Brian and Mike for putting this on. And it's gonna be a fun season. They're really fun cars.
It looks like it. It looks like a great battle, and hopefully maybe we can get some more people to jump in and enjoy and create some more chaos for you guys. But congratulations, Aubrey, on your win, and go relish in your victory, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That was our winner, Aubrey Kundrell, taking the win. Randal, just what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on how this went?
Well, it seems to me these cars are very tricky to drive. You can definitely push them and hoon them around a little bit, but you have to be careful how you do it. It's easy to go fast for a lap, maybe even 2 laps, but to go fast consistently over the entire length of a race is much more difficult, and it seems like some of those guys got caught out.
Definitely. So if you're looking for a few more races coming up, Slow Motion Broadcasting's got you covered. Coming up on next Monday, October 10th, we're going to have the XTC from Spa with GT3s and GT4s. That's going to be about 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. And then next Tuesday is the original WSRL GT3 and the LMP multi-class race. We will be running from Silverstone on next Tuesday, October 11th, also at about 8:50 p.m. Also running on Tuesday is the AMS League, the Mustang FRS 500s. They're going to be at Summit Point doing a dual 20-minute race. Should be a good, exciting race from those guys. On Thursday night, we'll be back here with the WSRL Indy Racing League here at Suzuka. So that should be definitely an interesting race to watch those guys get around Suzuka. And then Thursday night, also, we're going to have the MX5 Cup with the Spec 5 World Tour running here at Road America. So you got plenty of upcoming broadcasters here on the Slow Motion Broadcasting. I think we had a great turnout for the inaugural race here of the WSRL Indy Racing League. For Randal McGrew here in the commentary booth, doing the production for us, Dustin Ollis, I am Mike Braun, and we like to wish you a good night.